Best for Harrison Ford in Journey to Shiloh. Let me start this whole show over again. This week, we mark the passing of legendary actor James Caan. From Brian's Song to The Godfather to Misery to Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs 1 and 2. Who knew? He was truly iconic. Here at the Movie Guys, you have to imagine the performance we will remember him best for is opposite Harrison Ford in Journey to Shiloh.
There were 7 boys from Texas, rode off to fight a war. 1,000 miles to Richmond was where they headed for.
But Burnett was their leader, the captain of this crew. The Indians made him orphan at the age of 2. Willie Bill was born in Pecos. 18 summers he has seen. He's old enough to soldier, but will he see 19?
So, a huge loss. But of course, to honor him, please, everybody in the audience here, join me in a moment of nonsense. It's Monday Movie Nonsense. Hello! Happy Monday, and a Kieran Lagabiru to all of you.
Kieran Lagabir!
Destiny.
Destiny, indeed. Harrison Ford. Welcome to Movie Nonsense, happening Monday at 6 Eastern, 3 Pacific. If you've seen our videos, if you've attended our live shows, or watched us in the Movie Trivia Schmodown, then you know we, in particular, are all about the nonsense. But we love movies as well. And they don't stop making movies, so we don't stop making nonsense. You know how this works? So we don't stop making comedy shows about movies, which means you get a new show every week, free of charge. Paul! Oh, sorry, that's right. Paul's not here today. Paul is vacationing at an active volcano. No, an inactive volcano, but that just makes him sound like more of an Indiana Jones type. He might be checking in. He said he would check in from the volcano if they get reception up there. I'm assuming not. But hey, the show is absolutely free. We encourage you, please like, subscribe, repost this sort of stuff. If you're a fan of James Caan, we're about to talk about some James Caan. Say, hey, these guys talked about James Caan. They might be right up your alley. But of course, for social media, you can go to @TheMovieGuys. You can go to TheMovieGuys.net, where we put all of our shows up there separately as well. So that's like one-stop shopping for all our geekery. And, we did like 180 shows in Paul's garage over the last 10 years too. So all that stuff's up on our YouTube page. So if you just figured out who we are, we're great. We really are. Just ask any of these people that are watching right now. Let's see what we got in the comments here. Yes, and a Kieran Lagabiru to you. Yes, Garth, it's funny. We're gonna talk about James Caan here momentarily. That is my movie. That is my James Caan movie. It sounds like I'm just picking some weird alt, but no, that movie is an absolute masterpiece. We'll get to that as well. Thank you all for watching. Yes, exactly. God, you can't help it. You like movies, then you like movies. But seriously, movieguys.net for our podcast. We got podcasts. We have if you're just joining in, we've got a Harrison Ford podcast called The Ford Fiesta, where we cover every single Harrison Ford movie in a row. That's where Journey to Shiloh came from. And boy, what a song, huh? I mean, when you turn on Journey to Shiloh and you go, well, let's see what Harrison Ford did in Journey to Shiloh, and you are greeted immediately with this song.
There were 7 boys from Texas, rode off to fight a war.
It's just, that's one of the more fun episodes because just watching that in real time. But of course, yeah, hey, let's say you've forgotten everything I've said here. You go, the movie something, just go to Google or Yahoo or Ask Jeeves or Dogpile or Suba.net and just search for the movie guys. You can even go to Yahoo! And we come right up. I already said Yahoo. So, anyway. Today on the show, we're going to hit some trailers. We're going to talk Light and Magic. We're going to talk Clerks 3, which is bringing people together. Aren't movies just a warm hug nowadays? They really are. I'm just like, it is so funny, the quarantine effect on movies of making every movie possible a warm hug. Maverick is a warm, weighted blanket. And Clerks 3, it's all just like Jackass, forever. All of our friends are getting together. We're going to get together with our friends and go see the movie. Amsterdam, which I saw, 2 different movies I saw that trailer for. And then we're going to talk coming soon, Paws of Fury, The Legend of Hank. Finally, a Hank movie. You know, I've heard about The Legend of Hank, but I could get more. So yeah, Paws of Fury, Legend of Hank, which first of all, is Hanna-Barbera laying down on the Hong Kong Phooey movie? These guys beat Hong Kong Phooey to this concept? Okay. And then also coming out this week, it's, look, Thor came out last week, so it is counter-programming week. So it is Paws of Fury, The Legend of Hank, and Where the Crawdads Sing, which I'm gathering is kind of a Place Beyond the Pines meets The Wind Shakes the Barley. I mean, at least just from the title. I don't know what the movie's about, but that's just one of those titles that, it's serious. And then I'll tell you what I saw this week, and it was a superhero week. I saw Thor, Love and Thunder, and I'm just going to say it here, greatest movie of all time. Look, I know I'm a mark for superhero movies, but this movie, come on. It is so hard to make a movie as good as Thor, Love and Thunder. We are so spoiled. But then I was on such a movie, a superhero tear that I saw Thor, Love and Thunder, and much like back when X-Men 2 came out, at the time, we're on a whole new level of how good superhero movies are now. But back then, like, X-Men 2 was the Avengers Endgame of superhero movies at the time, because superhero movies were just so hit and miss. I liked all of them. That's a flaw in my personality. And we're going to discuss that here momentarily with my first guest. But what was so great is when I left X-Men 2, it was like a midnight screening. They were testing the print. It was great. A friend owned a movie theater. And I left and I'm just like, I'm enamored with superhero movies to begin with. I'm going to the theater to see Steel. I'm like, let me get me in there. But I went home from X-Men 2 and I'm like, this is such a game changer. What could I possibly watch? Like, I was in a superhero mood. I was like, what could I possibly watch? You know what I watched that night? Batman and Robin. And that is when I made my peace with Batman and Robin. So, guess what was playing at the New Beverly? Batman Forever. So, immediately after Thor, Love and Thunder, I went to go see Batman Forever. At the end of the show, my great friend, improv partner, and the person I was living with the summer Batman Forever came out, is going to come on the show. And we're going to talk about Summer 95. It's going to be all kinds of stuff and our love of Batman and how he and I, Fred Mowery, will be coming on the show for any of you who know him. Now, of course, I left, let me introduce my first guest here by saying, I left Thor, Love and Thunder, as I do all Marvel movies, with a new favorite movie. Maybe one of the greatest movies ever made. I mean, I constantly think this, only to get home, go on the internet, and find out I'm fairly alone in this assessment. This is but when this happens, and I go, I don't understand what people don't like about this movie, I have to reach out to one of the smartest cinema minds to explain the internet to me. Please come explain the internet to me. And I love talking movies with him, and I hate when we disagree. So I'll bring him on. We'll talk about some trailers and stuff, and then we'll get into Thor, Love and Thunder. So you know him from his work on the Screen Junkies, the hilarious Honest Trailers with them, and from his work on the Movie Trivia Schmodown, where I met him, and the Binge Boys podcast with Hal Rudnick, available from the fine people at Starburns Audio, available everywhere fine podcasts are. So if you say you're listening to the latest Ford Fiesta right now, Apocalypse Now with John Kaiser, and you go, that was pretty good. I could really go for some people really talking about movies. Here you go, the Binge Boys with Mr. Lon Harris and Hal Rudnick. But to Taco, he's just dead. Always here, always exciting. When I can't figure out the internet, here he is. Please come join me. I threw up the Lon signal. Lon Harris.
and I responded because I don't have that much going on. If the signal goes up, I'm like, I might as well go. It's just,
That's awesome. I mean, as soon as I heard that, wait a second, Thor is getting negative marks from people online, and I literally can't understand it. I'm just I have
to throw in right here, I've not seen the Thor Thunder movie yet. I have
Okay,
not,
you haven't. Okay.
I haven't gotten around to this one. I can explain to you why people don't like it.
Okay. Well, maybe that would help too, because I went and and look, I don't get into like negative space or whatever. Actually, let's talk about Thor first, and then we'll talk some trailers and stuff. I'll just flip the show around a little bit since we're already into Thor. We're not going to stop back on Thor right now.
And I know what happens. You could spoil it.
You know what happens. There's a God guy, and he does some God stuff. I actually
do know what happens. People spoil me on these movies all the time. I'm sort of used to it at this point. So not all the things that happen, but like I know what the post-credit scene in this one is.
The post-credit scene, man, that is where
I won't blow it. I don't know if your viewers have all seen it, but I
don't want to blow it for anybody, but I just want to say
you to know that I know what it is.
Okay. Yes, I'll just say this as a absolutely dyed-in-the-wool. I am in for any superhero movie almost. Although the biggest offense I can give a movie is a superhero movie is not going to see it in the theater, and I didn't see Morbius, so I guess that's my review of Morbius.
Have you seen it now? Have you since seen Morbius?
No, I still haven't seen it. I watched your honest trailers on it.
Woo! But, I mean, the thing about people sold that as fun bad, and I don't believe it. It is just bad. It is not. There are some of these movies, and I mean, there are some of these movies. You mentioned Batman and Robin, which I think fits in this, where they're not good, but I can still enjoy them in their not being goodness.
I think Batman Forever gives you a lot to enjoy compared to a Morbius. Yeah,
exactly. Like the Schumacher Batmans, I don't think are like top tier, but like they're bad in a way that is enjoyable and entertaining for me. And Morbius is just a slog from minute one. I don't recommend it on literally any level.
Yeah, I mean, it is the biggest offense I can give to it. The biggest negative review I can give to a superhero movie is not seeing it in theaters. Because if I don't make it out to see a superhero movie in theaters, then it ain't that interesting, I guess.
Yeah, no, wow, we're in Jonah Hex territory.
Jonah Hex,
I saw that. I saw that in theaters.
You did? Yeah.
I paid. I put money down on a box office, whatever. Man.
And I was even as a kid used to read Jonah Hex comic books. I was like, when that came out, I'm like, wow, really? Yeah.
In '89, I saw Batman, the Tim Burton Batman, and I was 10 years old when that came out, and that was a very important movie for me. And I got really into Batman, like not just comics. I really didn't know comics at all until then. I got really into Batman comics. So I was a DC reader for most of my teen years. I wasn't like I wasn't like one of those people like screw Marvel. I just didn't know their characters. I got into everything through Batman and then the Justice League.
Yeah.
So that was like my starting point was like I read Batman and then I'd be like, oh, Superman's out. I'm going to check out some of these Green Lantern. And that would be how I would discover new characters and stuff.
Oh, nice. Yeah. I was DC kid, 87, 88 was definitely DC. And then 89 would have got me back into DC because of Batman as well. So somewhere in there, I got into Marvel and then kind of shifted back and forth quite a bit. And then I became a big Marvel kid for like 85 I was DC, 86, and then it was 87, 88 was Marvel, and then kind of back to DC for Batman.
Yeah, by the time Marvel became like a pop culture thing, I was already like on a man, I was already like, I'm in college now, I read comics, like it was too late.
Yeah, or if you're me, you're just be ashamed that you read comics and hide them and that sort of thing. But yeah, right. Like I should not be.
I went through a few years where I was like, no, we're in jam bands. It's jam bands now.
It's only jam bands.
That's what we're into.
Yeah, that's what youth really is exclusivity. It's like, no, this is the only thing I like now, so that I can prove that I like it.
Yeah, that stuff is bad now.
So Thor, I go see this movie, and I take them as they go. I start, frame one, and I'm just in the experience. So for me, the storytelling is insane. It's the equivalent of, I think, I watch this movie and I go, can you imagine? Because when people saw Star Wars Episode 4 for the first time, this movie is literally dropped from space. There was nothing like it. There was nothing with that kind of storytelling, nothing with that sort of reference level, nothing that sort of involved you in that way, or just got rid of simple details that made you go, ooh, who's that? What's that? What's going on? To the point where if you watch episode 4 now, the irony would be someone would go, I don't know all these references. I mean, I got to keep up. I got to go watch 1 through 3. You know, like, that's the way people are with Marvel movies. Something like, oh, I don't know all the reference level. You could actually do that with Star Wars, even though that was the first movie. Episode 4 is like, oh man, I don't know what you guys are referencing. But that's the glory of that. And I felt like this one almost felt like this Thor: Love and Thunder was so confident and so that I'm just like, it's a real Star Wars. Like, people can say, oh, you know, it's with this within the Marvel universe, or I don't get this reference or that reference, but I'm like, that's kind of Star Wars. You know, I mean, it really has that sort of Star Wars, like, feast for the eyes, like, wait, who's that guy? And he's off screen, you know, or wait, what's that place? And it's off screen. You know, I'm like, just like, I really feel like it's such a Star Wars experience, and it's so confident and so funny. And that's why I felt people are obviously looking for, I feel when people, and it's the trend I've seen, when people like a Marvel movie, they don't like themselves for having liked one. So I feel like, I said all the time, I go, boy, after Spider-Man Far From Home, critics are going to be real savage the next few Marvel movies, because they're not going to feel good that they like this one this much. That's me bashing on critics. But anyway.
I mean, I think that's part of it, but I think there is also, I don't know. I mean, I think it's tough to say. I think that a lot of, and this is not just Marvel. I think the way that a lot of people watch and review and talk about movies now is like, I have my reaction. I decide in my mind, do I like this or not? If I'm enjoying this or not. And if I like it, I then build an argument about why it's good. And I'm like basically pretending that my opinion is objective. Like, well, I liked it, therefore it is good. And therefore I'm going to assemble data that backs up my contention that it is good. And the same thing. If I didn't like it, it was just it's a visceral reaction. That's taste. That's ineffable. Did you like something or did you not? Like, we don't even do that with food. If I'm like, you know what, my favorite fruit is pears, and you're like, pears are gross. We're not like, well, these guys are debating pears. You're pro, and are pears good or bad? Like, we understand that, well, pears are not good or bad. It's, do you like pears? But for some reason, it's not different when you watch a movie. It's the same. Does this appeal to you innately in a way that we don't know how to express in words or not? Okay. But then we convince ourselves like, oh no, but we're having an argument and we have to be right. So here's my data sheet on why the movie's bad. And I think that like, I understand the need for movie reviews and analysis. I'm not saying people shouldn't do that and pick things apart. That's part of the fun. But I do think we need to recognize on one level that like, it's just a gut check thing on one level. You're not right if you like the movie or if you don't. It's just like you came out of it and you had a feeling. And so I think it is partly like, well, I have to compensate for whatever I thought of the last movie. But it's all kinds of stuff like that where we're just like, we're adding in all of this other stuff to try to like make a case. And it's like, you're not going to movie court. You don't have to make a case.
You're not going to movie court. That's a good point. You don't have to make your case. You can just walk out and go, wow, yeah. Or
you could literally, walk out of a movie and be like, it was pretty good. And that's it. You don't ever have to have another opinion about that movie.
And you know what? When I came out of Lightyear, that was how I felt. I was just like, wow, yeah. Well, that was fine. That was cool. Right. But not like, oh, wow, and that was it. And I just didn't further study it. Maybe I'll watch it again a year from now and get a different opinion. But I was just like, I just left it there.
And I think that's most movies. I mean, I think it's like a bell curve thing where it's like, most movies are somewhere in the middle of the parabola where it's like, it's pretty good. It's only the outliers that are like, everything about this is terrible or everything about this is amazing. Like most movies are not Blade Runner or Morbius. They're somewhere in the middle.
Put that in the quote on screen. Most movies are not Blade Runner or Morbius. That's true.
That's too much to ask of any movie to be Blade Runner or Morbius. Most of them are somewhere in the middle of that spectrum, and how you feel about them is not as much about facts and data and, oh, what about this argument? And, oh, I don't like how they do this. And, oh, this isn't a good idea. And, oh, they do. And it's a lot less about that. And it's just a lot more about you and like your take on it. And like, and I think that, I think we forget that in the push and pull to like choose sides, we forget that.
Yeah, and based on what you're saying there, I also don't dwell in the negative. I'm not going to go find out why I should hate Thor. It's not going to work on me anyway. What's the point of going and looking that up? We've got a few friends that do reviews and stuff. I went and watched Dan Murrell. A couple of the people do their reviews, Roca. So I'm like, oh, I want to hear what my friends think about this. But I didn't go too much further in it because it's too good for me. And, I don't need to hear the negativity.
There's also, I mean, I think the one thing that the internet is, like, we can't really have this conversation because it keeps getting caught up in all this, like, larger emotional, are Marvels good? Are you dumb for watching Marvels? Or what? Like, and it always gets distracted. But I think there is a core point where the way that they make these Marvel movies is different from the way a lot of movies used to be made. And like the Marvel version of making movies is becoming the standard, which is why I think this is so, like, this is an interesting thing to talk about, because other franchises, other kinds of movies are now starting to borrow the Marvel system or the way of working. And it is very like...
You mean shooting in the volume, or do you mean like the plot structure?
No, I mean shooting in the
volume,
the physical production and the pace also. And I think if you watch that there's that video going around with Taika Waititi and Tessa Thompson where they're kind of making fun of themselves. They're kind of looking at one of the panels for the films and talking about how they make these movies. Like there's one shot, and I believe it is Thor and Valkyrie, and then Korg is in the background, and Jane might also be there.
Okay.
And these were not these are panels. Like the Tessa Thompson shot they're using in this frame and the Thor shot were shot on different days and times. And obviously Korg is dropped in, later.
Yeah.
And Tessa Thompson is commenting on this one moment where her character has a facial reaction for a moment that doesn't match up to the scene. And she says, oh, that we actually shot that on another day. There was a scene where Thor was waking up and I reacted with surprise. And that's why I have this little surprise reaction. But you use this shot from a different day. And they're laughing, because this is just, to them, it's just a job and it's how they did the work. And well, we pulled that off, like how you would at the end of a hard job.
Yeah.
And people are watching this and they're, this is why these movies are terrible, because it's not, these actors weren't, the reality of the scene and the poetry of cinematography was lost. And it's like, and I'm making fun of that, but I get that perspective. Well, but I don't think it's movie ruining either. I think there's nuance to these conversations that we lose.
Yeah. Well, and people that are upset about that sort of thing, I think is why the Where the Crawdads Sing opening this Friday is going to make $1 billion worldwide, because people are so tired of these superhero movies. Oh, wait, it's going to bomb and people will just still be complaining about superhero movies? Sorry. Anyway, what were we talking about?
I think because it is so dominant, because it is so popular, I think that's why people want to talk about it. And what we are losing by going that way and having our movies be produced that way, because I do think we lose something. I'm not saying don't make movies this way.
Marvel movies don't lose something, but you're saying other movies adopting the technique.
I'm saying filmmaking in general, not specifically about Marvel, but filmmaking in general. There is something to the idea that it's a group of people standing around, making something collaboratively together in the moment.
Is the beauty of it.
Reacting to one another in costumes someone made, on a set someone made, with a director giving them direction, reading words someone else wrote. Like, that's part of the magic of movie making, is that painting you're by yourself, sculpting you're by yourself, writing you're by yourself. But movies, you're in a big room with a lot of collaborators and you're all working on something in real time together. Yeah. And I think that once you start sticking people in these blue pods in a Best Buy parking lot, and they don't have to set around them, and they don't have the other actors around them, and Taika Waititi is just yelling at them to do things from off screen. Obviously, it's the only way to quickly turn around these kinds of movies. You couldn't make this movie in a conventional way. It would cost $1 billion and take you 2 years.
And it would be antithetical to the type of movie they're trying to make. They're trying to make splash panels that, That's
what I'm saying. The level at which they're working and the rate, that's the other thing, is that the rate at which they're cranking these out, it's not possible. You can't Avatar them. James Cameron is taking a decade on those. You can't do that with Thor: Love and Thunder. It has to come out so the next one can come out. Like, this is part of what Feige's doing. Like, it's part of the process.
Yeah.
So I think you have to accept that those limitations come in. But I also think that it would be a shame if all movies were made that way.
Yeah.
It's good that there's variety. It's good that there's Coda being made the old-fashioned way at the same time as there's Love and Thunder. And that, I think, is what people are saying.
I think they should advertise when movies are shot on film. He'll be back. This is a momentary blip. Let's go to a commercial real quick while we're waiting for Lon to come back in. Be right back.
You're in like a hero with that side. これでくださいビールをください何もう出るの
ミスタービールキリンラガービール
Sorry, went to a commercial while you were gone.
Work there, like how nailing the
Oh, sorry, you're I can't hear you. Is your mic close? Or you might have changed when it dropped out. I don't know. Just check it real quick, or maybe you're not close enough to it. Well, you're actually muted now.
How about now?
You sound good. Yeah, sorry, what you were saying? Nailing the kudasai?
If Harrison Ford nailed his Japanese pronunciation, I thought this was Japanese.
I don't know.
Kudasai the right way?
Kudasai? Desnai? Desnai?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what he's saying. I don't know Japanese.
Sure.
Anyway, that's what I was saying. I feel like that's the argument a lot of the time is like, well, so many movies are becoming these kinds of movies. We're kind of losing this other kind of movie.
Right. Okay.
But that's not a knock on Marvel movies. That's a knock on the movie industry holistically. And I think that's what gets lost a lot of the time. Like I feel like that's what Martin Scorsese is saying. It's like, it's a shame that when you go to the multiplex,
Director Hugo, right?
It's like 99% all of these movies that were made in this one way. And then like, maybe there's one or two screens for like an old fashioned kind of movie.
Well,
and that gets read as like, Martin Scorsese saying fuck Thor, and I don't think that's really what the man wants to say. Maybe maybe he hates Thor. I don't think so.
People will not spare any links to go to make themselves feel bad, so they'll take that out of context thing and go, everything's terrible.
Yes, that's true. I mean, that's true.
Now, that can't be the complaint about Thor: Love and Thunder, though. So what is it people, because I mean, that's this, you can't complain that someone that invented their sort of genre, their sort of the way they work, and it's much like, which is really what happened at the time for critics. Was like, why won't Hitchcock stop fucking making Hitchcock movies? That was the critics at the time.
Yeah.
Stop it, Hitchcock. Stop making Hitchcock movies. I feel like I'm hearing the same thing kind of here.
There is an element of that. There is an element of that. And I mean, I think that, after so long, after a generation of these Marvel movies, it's an easy thing to say.
Sure.
Like,
right.
We've seen it. We're tired of it. Do something new.
Ben Affleck's Daredevil didn't come out last week, so we're not there's Marvel movies, right?
We've already been hearing that for a decade. We'll continue hearing it as long as these remain the champion. I mean, I think the one other knock I've heard is that we're getting back into that territory where everything is kind of a goof. Everything is a gag. And I'm not saying this about the movie. I haven't seen it.
Sure. No. But I'm asking you to tell me what the internet is saying. Right. It's too funny. Now, if you want to find,
it's too funny, sort of, but then it's not funny. It's not grounded at all. There's no relatable, emotional core to it. That's what people say. And if you look back at the early Marvel movies,
that version must not have tested well.
Right. Well, I mean, I think this is a fascinating point.
The version with no gods didn't test well in the Thor movie.
Anyway. The rose-colored glasses that have gone on around Phase 1, where people will now complain like, oh, Phase 4, it's not going anywhere. There's no overarching plot that I'm following. It's like, do you guys remember Thor 1? There's no overarching plot. Like, you're misremembering what the early stages of a phase are like. You're remembering the early movies as being what Endgame was to you, and they weren't yet. They were still developing, and you were like, maybe I'll go see this Captain America thing. I don't know, it looks kind of cheesy.
It is such retrospect. We've seen Avengers Endgame. We know where they went that entire time, and now, like, how come Iron Man 2 just came out again? How come I don't know?
Right. We're back at the beginning of the Infinity Saga, but people want to fast forward to being back at the end when everything was like doused in portent and so important to them. And I think that's just human nature or whatever.
It is human nature, isn't it?
Yeah, but I mean, but I do think there is something to the idea that a lot of the earlier films, it was all heart. It was effects. It was crazy, like stuff to see and spectacle and whatever, and movie stars. But it was also like, you just like these characters.
Stars.
And we didn't know Chris Hemsworth yet.
Yeah.
So Chris Hemsworth playing Thor was
Nobody's.
new. We didn't like Chris Evans wasn't a huge star, so seeing him embody Captain America was really exciting. And there was still all those questions of how will they integrate all these core basic characters that we love, like, you know, how will they get what will it be like when Loki meets Iron Man for the first time? And I think that now that it's been so long and we're all used to that stuff and we know all these characters, I think they do feel free to get a lot more loose and meta and sort of
and to be proper Marvel comic books, really, you know?
Right, and to have a lot of fun with it. And I think that for some people that does feel like it's lost something, that it's zany and it's you know, sort of like a little more chaotic and a little less grounded in personality and relationships and who these characters are. And I think that's inevitable. Like, what franchise is going to go on for 30 plus movies and not do that?
What movies couldn't go 3 movies in a row without dropping the ball?
I mean, F9,
26.
the Fast Saga, is not grounded and doesn't have the emotional stakes of The Fast and the Furious, because that would be crazy. Of course not. Now they're jumping off of cliffs around the world, you know.
I mean, the grounded thing from early on is because Iron Man was made the same year as Dark Knight Return, or you know, the Batman: The Dark Knight, right?
Right.
Or the Dark Knight.
Just The Dark Knight, I believe.
Just The Dark Knight. But, you know, so that's a very different time. You know, people kind of still were in that area where they didn't know how to make superhero movies. So the big radical thing, I mean, I'm almost surprised that Iron Man wasn't in black leather, because that's how close it was to the era of black leather, which I call apology superhero movies. We're sorry we're making one of these. If we put him in black, will you forgive us? And Marvel was like, here's what our Iron Man looks like. It looks like Iron Man. And then they released the costume for Thor, and they're like, it looks like Thor. And that was shocking. Here's our Captain, and you're like, ooh, because there was a big deal when they released the costume. You're like, ooh, what's Captain America going to look like? Oh, exactly like Captain America. Wow, okay, I mean, that is new.
And that was part of the pitch for the MCU in those early movies, was you've always had these studios coming along. They're taking these comic books and then they're reinventing them. That was the whole bit. We're going to take this comic book, but then we're going to figure out what's the cinematic version of that world and that character. And that was like Kevin Feige's whole deal at the beginning, was we're just the comic book company.
We're making comic book movies.
We're not going to do that. We're going to take the comic book and just make the comic book into the movie. And that was like explicitly
radical,
the pitch. And it was very radical.
It was radical.
That was how, I mean, I remember like reading the calendar section when they announced X-Men, and the first interview with Bryan Singer was, how are you going to reinvent this for movie? You're a filmmaker. Right. These are drawings. You're going to look at these drawings and figure out how this works on screen. The idea was, there's no way that just taking a panel from a comic, shooting it on a movie set and putting that on a big screen would work. The leading idea was, well, that would never, they're different mediums. It would be just like filming a painting. You can't do that. You have to adapt it. And I think that was that first generation of Marvels was the definitive, like, no, you don't need to adapt it. I mean, you do.
Yeah. Well,
what we mean by the term adapt is very different.
Yeah, they're literally putting comic book adventure on the screen, which is so funny to watch all the other people try and make superhero movies, including DC, who now has a roadmap. They could cheat off of Marvel's homework, and they won't. But you know, like the idea of
I feel like there have been at this point a few, like Birds of Prey.
Birds of Prey was great.
That James Gunn The Suicide Squad. Like there have been a few DCs where I feel like they're starting to feel more like DC Comics.
Yeah,
brought to the screen. I feel like Shazam. Right. We'll see about this Black Adam movie. That has that potential, I feel like.
Yeah.
It does feel to me a little bit like DC Comics visualized, but I don't feel confident.
Oh, hey, speaking of which, I haven't seen Morbius. So my bet when I very first saw it was that Michael Keaton's only appearance was in the end credits. Is that true?
That is true. Well, it's the very, very, very end of the movie, and then there's a post-credit scene, but it's all bananas. I mean, it is absolutely
what a desperate thing to put in the trailer.
It may be the lamest post-credit scene of all time. Can I blow this for you? It's
please.
Fun.
Oh, please.
So at the very,
I love
very
a lame
end,
post-credit.
At the very, very end, we see the Vulture disappears from our whatever the MCU's core universe is.
Right, 616, I guess.
He like disappears like Venom style and reemerge, or not Venom. He reappears like Spider-Man style and reemerges in the Sony Venom verse. in the Morbius universe.
Okay.
But like randomly into a prison cell, and they don't have any record of why he would be in prison, so they just let him go. So he's like, that's where we leave him. And then there's a post-credit sequence where it's literally Morbius standing in a field, no context. We just open on a field. Morbius is standing in a field, and then Vulture flies up. He doesn't take off the helmet, so they didn't have to have Keaton show up.
Right. So they decided to add it later. Yeah.
And Keaton literally says like, "Hey, I don't know where I am. I think it's got something to do with Spider-Man, but you and I should work together." And Morbius is like, "Yes, we should." End of sequence. That's it.
Oh, yes, that's in your honest trailers. I did see that. And I was wondering where it was in the movie, because my bet when I first saw it was like...
Very last thing you see. Very last thing.
Oh my gosh. It's a Sinestro. We'll get to Sinestro.
Like, let us make more of these, and we'll introduce Morbius to Vulture. And it's like, what? Does anybody care about that?
What is funny is the effortlessness of that Marvel got the end credits thing into. Now everybody has to do it, but nobody knows how to do it, and they effortlessly did it good, with the exception of maybe 2 movies. I think the end credits are really fantastic for the Marvel movies.
There have been a few puzzling ones. I have to be honest, just as a guy who didn't grow up reading Marvel comics, I really like it when it's not entirely like, hey, like the one in Doctor Strange where Charlize Theron shows up. That's not really fun. Like, it's fun for me to be like, Charlize Theron's in this. Yeah. But I don't know who that is. So I'm just like, she's Clea. She's gonna cut holes in reality. I like it when they can find a way to make it fun, even if you don't. Like the Eternals one with Patton Oswalt was fun because it's Patton Oswalt. Like, they made it funny, even though I don't know who those characters are.
Right. Well, yeah, that's the thing. And I do know who that character is. So
my troll. I know now, but I didn't.
Yeah.
I didn't know
I didn't know Pip, but Star Fox. I always thought Star Fox was a cool character. And my favorite Avengers lineup was Black Knight, Star Fox, and the end credits from Thor. That character, I won't blow it for anybody who hasn't seen it, but I'm like,
I know who it is.
I'm like, oh my God, if the next Avengers lineup, when they finally get around to making an Avengers movie, is those 3 characters and various others, and probably, Charlize Theron and, an Eternal and Shang-Chi, I'm like, oh my God, if that's the next Avengers lineup, if I'm really going to see Star Fox, Black Knight, and from Thor Love and Thunder, oh man. But what great casting, huh? Killed it.
Yeah. It's a very fun. It's a left field pick, but good. Like, you don't expect it, but then you think about it, and you're like, that actually kind of works. Which is
Marvel's mostly left field picks, except for Robert Redford, and I mean, what are their center field picks? They ain't casting The Rock. That's a DC move,
Yeah.
Let's get the guy who directed the most popular thing last year and the most popular star from last year and make a superhero movie. That's more DC. Whereas this one's like, let's get the director of Swingers, see how that works, or not Swingers, but Made, Oh, let's just give him Swingers, right? Come on. Why we keep every time
that's ridiculous. They're just messing with trivia people at this point.
Please.
Why do it that way, guys? Because
Doug
Liman makes action movies. Stop it.
He does, right? Swingers.
That's like the last time. That's like the last time. And then after that, he was just like, no, put Tom Cruise or Matt Damon in something.
Yeah, my friend Steve used to do that. My friend, who unfortunately passed away recently, but he used to have a thing of like, that is not a movie directed like Jack. He's like, Jack is not a Coppola movie. I'm giving it to Chris Columbus. That is a Chris Columbus movie. And from then on, when you had a discussion, you said Coppola or something, you made a reference to Jack, and he's like, I'm like, Chris Columbus.
Siskel and Ebert used to do this, where if 2 movies came out in a year, that they were like, these movies should have switched directors. Like, and they would say it like casually. Like, I remember The Gingerbread Man came out.
Oh yeah.
And Midnight and the Garden of Good and Evil, and those came out within like a few weeks of each other. And they're like, these movies have the wrong directors. I don't know what Eastwood would have killed Gingerbread Man. And then you think about it, you're like, they're right. Eastwood would have killed Gingerbread Man.
So they gave Altman Garden of Good and Evil?
And Altman would have killed Garden of Good and Evil. They're absolutely right.
That's a total gluck. We're going to call that a gluck because
it's got to think about it. In the Garden of Good and Evil, like ensemble, comedy, drama, all these intricate relationships in Savannah between all of these networks of people. That's vintage Altman. And Gingerbread Man is like rainy night thriller with a legal element. Kenneth Branagh. They're like, that's perfect for Eastwood.
That's good. Anyway. That's good. That's real.
This is reality, Fred.
Okay. So to sum it up, the reason people don't think Thor is bad, people are calling it a bad movie. That is simply not true, because it's very hard to make a movie that, well, if your comment is too funny, then you're just looking for excuses to beat up on it, because too funny has never been said about any movie ever. Nobody's ever come out of a comedy and went, it's too funny. It's just too funny.
It's very hard, especially in week one, with any of these movies, to separate, like, this is my review of Marvel and its impact on movies, and this is my review of this Marvel movie. Like,
well, these movies have to be seen twice anyway.
Yeah, it's very hard to unpack, because I think we all at this point have ingrained feelings about the franchise and the genre, and like how massively this has impacted filmmaking overall.
Okay.
Gotcha. And I think it's hard to separate. So I think when Thor comes out, it's just like reigniting this argument that we were just having about Doctor Strange, and before that we were having about Spider-Man, and before that we were having about Shang-Chi, and it just goes on and on.
They're all the best. They're all the best. I love them so much. They're so good.
I mean, I think at this point you kind of know what you're they're not the same.
Hell, fuck no.
They're not the same. But there's
another one of these Moon Knight movies.
But there's a consistency of tone and approach that's enough that you kind of know if you're in or you're out, I think. Like, I'm in, I like them. Some I like a lot more than others, but I never hate them. Like, and I think you kind of know where you fit at this point in the game, you know? So if you're like, these don't work for me, I can't focus on how, I don't know, it's not three people in front of a green screen in a parking lot in Burbank, don't go. There's plenty of Nope is coming out very soon.
Oh, Nope. Hey, let's talk about Nope for a second. Let's switch over to talk a little trailers and then and what's coming out this week.
What a segue, right?
What a segue. Hey, you nailed it.
How do I do it?
Oh, thank you so much. Good job, man. You're a real professional. Yeah. Hold on, I can't. I can't top that.
You can't top that.
So Nope. I didn't pull a clip from it, but I gotta tell you, I've seen every Nope trailer. There's been 3 Nope trailers, right? I believe.
Yeah.
What a way to roll out what in the fuck this movie could be about. Have you seen the most recent one?
I've seen them all. I think I've seen them all. Yeah.
So like the first one is the really like esoteric, you see something, run, boom, Nope, which is brilliant.
Yeah. They're all looking up. There's something in the sky. Beyond that, we don't know what it is.
And then what an auteur this Jordan Peele is, because you've got these images, the woman with the teeth and the little waving guys, and then the zoetrope of the man on the horse, and you're just like, what kind of auteur stuff is going on here? What do all these images mean? And then you get the next trailer, which gives you a completely different set of information. That's the one where she's like, the very first person
her grandfather was the horse rider, the stunt man,
which is amazing. That's so great. And then you get like a little bit more information, but not much, but it raises more and more and more questions. Then this last trailer answers all the questions you almost couldn't even formulate, and it just blew my mind. I was like, this is what this movie is? Holy crap. Yeah. The movie's going to do really well. Not shot on the volume. Everybody can go to that. That's for sure.
That's what I mean. Like, I think, there are still, though, and like, there are still those filmmakers. And I think that, that's a lot of this argument is like, if you'd rather see Nope than another movie where they, pretend to go to space by standing in the volume, Nope is available. It's right there.
Yeah. And it does seem like basic bitching, too, because we just had Maverick. The whole point of Maverick is it was all shot on film and real.
Yeah, I can't argue there. And I mean, I think that it's the balance. Like the balance is healthy. It's always good that there are multiple options for different people. And as long as there are, you can't really, like if you're sick of Marvel, I get it. Go see Maverick.
The superhero movies come out on an average of 1 every 2 months. On an average. And that probably is true this summer even.
Well, this summer is it's a bit of a weird summer. I feel like it's more than once every 2 months in a traditional year.
I'd say it's maybe about 6 a year, though, right? How many superhero movies come out a year?
Yeah, I mean, at least 3 at this point. Like 3 from Marvel, maybe 2 from DC, and then 1 from Sony. Maybe a cartoon here or there. 1 or 2 others. But I think that people get a little like they get weird about like, are other movies going to disappear? Is this going to take over and become everything? And like I don't think that's going to happen. And I think that for me, stuff like Maverick it's like a positive sign that you can have a variety of stuff that hits with people. It's not just superhero or animation, like and as long as that exists, I think that it's healthy and that you could just go see what you like.
Yeah. I mean, and people are pretty good at bragging too that like no digital effects in this. This was all done in real. I mean, that's the entire press push on Maverick is like, nope, it's all done for real.
It's almost always BS. It's almost always BS, folks. By the way, Netflix was promoting Stranger Things that way. Did you see that? Where they were like, Vecna's all practical, and it's like it is practical. Like they put a guy in the Vecna suit. But then they did digital touch-ups on it, obviously.
Well, sure. Well, that's the thing. Mad Max Fury Road, everyone's like, shot in camera. Right. Yeah, and then colored the shit out of it.
And then, it's like, Australia doesn't look like that, right?
Right, yeah.
It's not red. I don't know.
And yet what they did is insane, and it should be, lauded.
It's about the final look. It's not about how you got there.
It's all about how... And the other thing about Marvel movies is, a year from now... the opinion on Thor will be completely different. Like, I've said this as a Star Wars fan. I was like, by the time of Rise of Skywalker, everyone that hated Force Awakens had come around to going, actually, Force Awakens is pretty good. And certainly the prequel trilogy. By the time The Force Awakens comes out, everyone had come around to say, well, okay, actually, these are some good moments. And some people fully like those. And by the time, Rise of Skywalker came out, a lot of people would come around on Last Jedi and realize that's the masterpiece that it is. And so then all the critics came out against Rise of Skywalker, and I'm like, guys, why are you doing this? Just wait 2 years. I mean, you're probably going to like it in 2 years. It's like, it's so weird, the heat around the release,
It's fascinating to me too, because this is a new, like, I remember, being like a teen or in my 20s and when movies were coming out, and it was like, once a movie was sort of out and it came out on video or it was on HBO or whatever, that movie was kind of done and everybody was focused on the new stuff. And now we're constantly reappraising this back catalog. Like, there's a constant discussion where it's always shifting too. Like, those Andrew Garfield Spider-Mans are actually great. And it's like, it's hard even for me sometimes to keep up with where is the mainstream people, where is everybody's heads at on all of these movies? Like, have we reevaluated the David Harbour Hellboy yet? Are we on board for that one yet? Or no, we got a few years left on that one, but we've resurrected.
You're so right.
We decided Days of Future Past is actually great now, but we're not quite up to the David Harbour Hellboy yet. We got a few years to go.
That's such a good point. In a world where people now like The Amazing Spider-Man, how can I believe anything they think about Thor: Love and Thunder? Like, just wait.
Yeah, they're like, nobody realized at the time that I was there. I was there, Gandalf, 3,000 years ago. But everybody hated Amazing Spider-Man. We all agreed. There was no dissent in those ranks.
No, there wasn't. But I predict a wave in about 3 months before Thor is available widely on video or whatever, or less now, I guess. But
I feel like it's like 6 or 7 weeks. It's like
6 or 7 weeks now
on D+. Yeah.
I'll predict this wave of actually it's quite good. Actually it's good. Actually it's good. And it just like the tomato meter, it'll be back up to 100% or something. I think.
Guaranteed. I mean, that
because it's
happens.
just too good. Yeah. It's too good a movie.
I just said, I mean, like, it comes out and it's this. People have been like, for like months, they've been waiting to have this argument again about.
So excited to hate it. So excited to hate it.
Bad, and it's just this ongoing. It never ends.
I'm going to be there opening night to hate it. Oh yeah, actually, I'm going with a friend earlier in the night, and we're going to go see it on IMAX to hate it. And then, but later in the day, I actually made with another friend, so we're going to hate it later that night too. So I'm going to get 2 chances to hate it on opening night. I'm very excited. You're like, what are you even doing?
People love having opinions. That's part of the fun.
Okay, well, instead of trailers, because let me just take a second here, because we could talk about trailers next week. You want to talk about James Caan briefly?
Sure.
Do you want to talk about James Caan or some new trailers?
Let's talk about James Caan.
Let's talk about James Caan.
Let's talk about James Caan.
Here's a little clip of James Caan right here. How about this one, huh?
Where's the rest? Don't worry about it. What is this?
This is the cash part.
Well, you're light. 830,000 supposed to be here, and I count what? 70, 80, 90.
That's because I put you into the Jacksonville, the Fort Worth, and the Davenport shopping centers with the rest. I take care of my people. You can ask these guys. Papers are at your house. It's set up as a limited partnership. The general partner is a subchapter S corporation. You got equity with me in that.
Well, count me out.
I thought we had this good thing. Plus, I got a major score in Palm Beach for you in 6 weeks.
You talking to me or somebody else walking this room?
Nice.
What's that supposed to mean?
It means you are dreaming. This is payday. It is over.
That's Robert Prosky.
You know, when you have trouble with the cops,
Great. Wonderful.
you pay them off like everybody else because that's the way things are done. But not you, huh?
No. They don't run me, and you don't run me.
I give you houses, I give you a car. You're family. I thought you'd come around. What the hell is this? Where is gratitude?
Where is my end?
You can't see day from night.
I can see my money is still in your pocket, which is from the yield of my labor.
Yeah. James Caan and Michael Mann did not work together nearly enough.
No, man.
What's your favorite
Greatest
James Caan movie?
greatest labor union movie of all time right there.
Oh, yeah. I never thought of it that way. Yeah, that's good.
Oh man, it's hard. It's hard to pick. I mean, obviously,
Yeah.
you know, the Godfather, Thief, both total classics of the genre. Hard to choose anything else. I do love him in Misery. I think Kathy Bates gets all the love for that one, but it's a true two-hander. It doesn't work without the both of them.
I gotta rewatch.
Oh yeah, so good. And then the
Good
one
one.
other one that always has been just a personal movie I have loved since I was a young lad, with Nicolas Cage, Honeymoon in Vegas. He's the heavy in Honeymoon in Vegas, and
never seen it.
So, oh my god,
Yeah.
So I don't.
And I'm on a major Cage renaissance right now. I'm rewatching all my Cage, so
it's one of those movies where when you pitch it now, it's got a very dated premise that really throws people. But there is a sweetness to the movie that is hard to describe. So I'm going to say the premise, and I know people will be like, Nicolas Cage and Sarah Jessica Parker go to Vegas to get married and have their honeymoon.
Yeah. Thus the title.
Yeah. Sarah Jessica Parker gets tired. She goes up to the room. Nicolas Cage is like, I'm gonna play at the tables. You know, he decides to play a little poker. He gets ended up invited to this like exclusive table with James Caan, who's a professional gambler, who's like a shark, who kind of cons him.
Okay.
And also has seen Sarah Jessica Parker, seen them together from afar. Sarah Jessica Parker looks exactly like James Caan's beloved late wife. And as soon as he sees her, he's like, I got to get close to this woman. I got to get to know this woman. So he gets Cage. They're all in. It's the pot. And the fire wager is like, if you want to call me, I want to take your wife to my villa in Hawaii for the weekend. You give me a weekend with your wife. That's the wager. And Cage is like, there's no way I can lose. I've got the winning hand. He makes the bet. And of course, Caan wins. And that's the premise. Caan takes Sarah Jessica Parker to Hawaii for the weekend. And then Cage loses his mind, can't handle it, and goes to go track her down and get her back. And it does sound like they're kind of exchanging this woman. Like that is I can't deny that that's the premise, which is odd. But it's played very light, it's played very sweetly, and it all works out in the end. So, you know, I think that takes some of the sting off it. And Caan is remarkable. It's very funny. He comes in and he just assumes that role, and you never question it. That he's this, Vegas card shark guy,
I took him for granted. He was just great. He was James Caan. He was in stuff, and that sort of stuff. But just pulling clips today, I pulled a couple clips, and I'm just like, oh man, watching him in Thief, man. I'm like, I gotta watch Thief right now. Like he just kills it.
And he's got that tough guy authenticity where it's like it doesn't feel like an actor playing a tough guy. It just feels like they got this real guy to come in and, threaten everybody. Like the Way of the Gun, too. He's got that scene and, he doesn't have to do much. He just comes in and threatens Philippi and Benicio del Toro. And you're like, I believe this guy is going to mess them up.
Yeah.
I totally believe it. I'm invested in the reality that this guy could mess these two guys up.
He's so good. And here's one of my favorites. And I'll tell you about the film fest I saw this in because I think you'll enjoy this concept. But this is one of my favorite movies.
Jonathan E. That's the name. Houston players come and go, but the champion plays on.
Supporting cast.
You know how the game serves us. It has a definite social purpose.
Like this.
Nations are bankrupt, gone. No poverty, no sickness. Man has accomplished what he'd always craved. Corporate society was an inevitable destiny, a good life, a centuries-old dream.
You better do as you're told, Jonathan. That's all I have to say.
Don't be here when I come back.
You won't be back, Johnny boy.
No player is greater than the game itself. It's not a game a man is supposed to grow strong in, Jonathan.
You still don't understand why I came here.
You're the only person I ever wanted. Wanted you on my side. That's all.
Now, I said, when I saw Rollerball for the first time, which is only about 10 years ago or something like that, that if I sat someone down and said, have you seen that Stanley Kubrick movie Rollerball? And they're like, I didn't know he directed Rollerball. And I go, well, yeah, just watch. You would give me no argument that Stanley Kubrick did not direct that movie while watching it. I don't think.
The ambition on a lot of those 70s, like those 70s dystopian sci-fi movies, they would always come out with these like very B-movie premises, but they were taking them so seriously. They were really investing. It's this B-movie premise, but it's happening in a fully realized world. You know, like we're gonna really put like Soylent Green is like that too.
Yeah,
where it's like
they're 70s movies, you know. They're
really good, right. It's the 70s, so we're gonna Logan's run this thing.
We're gonna Logan's run this.
By which I mean we could just make a movie with this simple premise and make it like an action sci-fi thing, but we're really going to invest in the world building and all the details. And there's always going to be like a guy like in that trailer who's like, "Let me tell you why society is now the perfect society." Like the Nigel
and John
Hawthorne,
Houseman doing it.
Yeah, the Nigel Hawthorne from Demolition Man role.
Oh gosh,
he oversees the perfect utopian future that's actually terrible.
So listen to you'll like this premise here. There's a friend of mine puts together film festivals in Chicago, and they're living room film festivals, you know, but they go all weekend. Right. So this one that I watched this one in, listen to this concept. It was called Yesterday's Terrible Tomorrows. Movies from the 70s about the future.
Right.
Omega Man, Boy and His Dog, Quintet, Americathon, Sleeper.
Quintet?
Yeah.
Bananas. One of the craziest movies I've ever seen.
I know, right? It's like,
you keep waiting for it to like, this is eventually going to cohere into something I can like follow and part.
Just going to wander.
No.
It's just going to wander.
Stay this crazy the whole time.
Oh my God. Clockwork Orange, Bed Sitting Room, THX 1138, Zardoz.
Yeah.
World on a Wire. Colossus, The Foreman Project, The Terminal Man, No Blade of Grass, Phase 4.
Viviani was just tweeting about Phase 4.
He was. That's the first place I watched it was this. I mean, that's a hell of. Have you seen it?
I've not seen Phase 4.
Oh,
no.
My friend.
Something about killer ants, it looks like.
Yeah, but in this sort of like weird artsy way. It's not like they ever talk or grow big or whatever. They're just like. Yeah.
Well, even like Colossus, The Foreman Project. I think even just the title sounds so stupid, but it's like it's not stupid at all. They're really trying. Like, it's very thoughtful. It's like Andromeda Strain level thoughtful.
Yeah. So Rollerball, I just totally fell in love with.
There was a great somebody, I don't remember who. Somebody tweeted out like a video store employee was like, James Caan used to come into the video store where I worked all the time. He would just grab random titles off of the shelf and throw them on the counter. Like, what do you think of these? Which of these should I rent? And he's like, one time he threw this title down. I was like, well, it's about this future sports league where, you know, you are very violent and you're hitting people. And Khan's like, oh yeah, one of mine. Don't want that one. Like he forgot he was in Rollerball, I guess. Yeah, like he saw the box Rollerball. He's like, oh, this one looks interesting, and grabbed it. And then it was like, one of mine. Never mind.
Oh, I see. Okay, yes, he didn't realize he'd grabbed it. He's like, you
didn't realize he grabbed one of his.
I can tell you the plot of Rollerball. But watching that trailer though, I want to get me that Rollerball T-shirt with the big number 9 on it or whatever.
Oh yeah,
I think I need it.
It's so cool. It's so period. Like nothing looked like that after 1977.
And the production design is straight out of Clockwork Orange. It's just amazing look. I mean, Norman Jewison really makes a masterpiece out of that movie.
You've seen the McTiernan update?
I have not.
Man,
should I watch it?
Yes, because it's bonkers. But especially if you've seen the original, it's worth checking out just to see how they decide to update it. But he does exactly the thing I'm saying they wouldn't do in the 70s, which is like just make it like a generic future world. And then we're going to focus on the story and the action and not not make it like it's really light on the sci-fi and very heavy on the action. And like, that's what's so cool about the original is that Jewison is like, it's just world building for most of it. And then, there's this league and whatever.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's still like the director of, it's still Norman Jewison. Like he's like turning in a series.
Fiddler on the Roof, Norman.
Right,
Jewison,
Fiddler on the Roof. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's awful cool. So yeah, James Caan here. Let's leave our tribute to James Caan, of course, as only we know how.
There were 7 boys from Texas rode off to fight a war. 1,000 miles to Richmond was where they headed for.
But Burnett was their leader, the captain of this crew. The Indians made him orphan at the age of 2. Willie Bill was born in Pecos. 18 summers he has seen. He's old enough to soldier, but will he see 19?
And by the way, Journey to Shiloh, James Caan turns in a great performance. We watched it for the Ford Fiesta because Harrison Ford plays, Willie Bill there. But there's some scenes, man, where he goes in to get the it's like the burial money for somebody in their crew gets killed, and he goes into this room with all the big wigs in the big saloon, with legs kicked up, and like, do you know who I am, sort of stuff, and he dresses them down and is like, I'm taking this, $100 to bury my friend, and you're not going to say anything about it. Like he's always James Caan, always James Caan. Yeah, so good. And that's the James Caan segment.
I was going to post that. There's a great clip from the Critic, that old animated show, where it's Shatner, and he's like, tonight on Celebrity 911, full hour of calls dedicated to actor James Caan. God, and then he does the whole con. And I was gonna post it, and I was like, that's gonna be seen as like making fun because he got into trouble with the law a few times. I don't want people to think I'm mocking James Caan. So
well, that's not the one people would. That's an obscure one. That's a good one, and that's a great segue. Lon, if you got to go, let me know because I'm about to talk Batman Forever with the guy I saw it with in 1995.
Yeah, I'll let you guys jump into Batman Forever.
But also, I watched that episode of The Critic with him, and that reference level wasn't something you saw every day back then. And when that came on, I remember that whole living room just erupted. Like, oh my God, what a reference.
Yeah, The Critic was like one of the first shows where it was like deep pop culture. It wasn't just like, where's the beef? It was like deep. Like, are you going to get all of these references? Very, very, very influential to like every animated show now, where it's all those references.
Oh, I know, right? Right?
There was nothing but obscure references now.
Yeah.
Like Rick and Morty, it's almost like, how obscure can we make the reference?
How obscure can they go?
And The Critic was like the first time where it was like, we're going to riff on stuff from the 70s, and if you haven't seen it, oh well.
Yeah. If you don't get that Caan reference, and most of America didn't.
Yeah, that was 20 years
for us.
Later. Yeah. Exactly.
Well, Lon Harris, good to have you here. Let me plug all your stuff here again before we get you going here. Obviously, there's Honest Trailers from Screen Junkies. And this is the reason I bring people on the show sometimes. Sometimes I forget they're doing a show that I should be listening to. I just subscribed to it, but I've not been listening to the Binge Boys. It's you and Hal Rudnick, eh?
It's me and Hal Rudnick. Every week we go over the streaming news. Like, here's what's happening.
It's all streaming news.
HBO, Netflix, Hulu, Shudder. I try to keep up. And then we review, 2 or 3 streaming things we watched a week. So we're keeping up with. Yeah, so we're keeping up with the Star Wars and the Marvel, Disney Plus shows, but also whatever Stranger Things, whatever's on Hulu. I try to keep up with AMC Plus and Shudder and some of these other services, Stars and Showtime. So we're trying to give you like in a funny, easy to listen to way. Here's everything you got to keep up with in the world of streaming.
Well, I'm glad I heard of that. I'm now subscribed to it. I can't believe I'm always finding all of our friends are so put out so much content, and I'm always finding I'm like, wait, so and so has a podcast and I'm not listening to it? Okay, but so anyway, Binge Boys, I will listen to that. Especially, I'd love to hear your take on Kenobi because we didn't get to talk about that. But
not this past episode because we did the Bear and what I think, but the one before that we'll have our Kenobi takes.
Okay, all right. Well, I'll check that out. Thanks for stopping by, Lon Harris, and internet to me.
Thanks for having me. Always a pleasure.
All right, see you soon. All right, well, good guy, and as promised, I have sitting in the queue here one of my very, very best friends, but more importantly, my roommate in 1995 when Batman Forever came out, because, as I said at the top of the show, actually, I guess I can lead into this with him here. Please welcome, from the Tower Players of Miami University, from Cleveland, Ohio, Minnesota Mowery himself, Fred Mowery. Hey, what's going on?
How you doing, my friend?
Good. Thanks for popping into the show. I know we talked a few times of to see if you could pop in. I'm glad you could today because I saw Batman Forever this weekend. And of course, what did I think of? You.
Saw it on the big screen too. I'm so jealous of that. We don't do that around here in Cleveland. One of the few things we don't do, but still.
You don't have a good repertory theater? Obviously, nobody has the New Beverly. There's only one New Beverly, but...
No. The closest thing we've got is something called the Cedar Lee. It's the art house, and it's over on the east side of the city. So you get all the good films there, like all the like every Bill Murray film in the world seems like it plays there at least once a week. But we don't get the old stuff. Like I would kill for Batman Forever, or like they won't even do like the original Star Wars trilogy, which is something I'd be dying to see on the screen right now. So yeah, very jealous though.
Well, I told you, my one of my business plans, half of me wants to move back to Oxford, Ohio because they don't have a movie theater or a comedy space. And I'm like, let me take over the Brickyard, turn it back into the Miami Western Theater and host improv shows and show midnight movies and second run, classic movies for the kids there. Do it like a Bruin View, Kids that eat that up. So it sounds like you're in the same situation.
Oh, absolutely.
So, of course,
more or less, yes. But
so what's so exciting is I saw Thor Love and Thunder. I don't know if you've seen it yet. Did you see Thor Love and Thunder?
It's great. I love it.
It's amazing,
yes,
right?
I did. I loved every bit of it.
I mean, you just
can't
imagine you'd ever see a superhero movie like that,
Right. I mean, you're sitting there and you're going, first of all, I'm like looking at my watch saying, it's the fourth Thor movie. I mean, what we had on TV was, who was the guy that played Thor in the Incredible Hulk TV show? You would know this guy.
I don't know if I'd know his name. Where did he go? Let's see. I know the small guy, the Donald Blake guy. Let's see.
They're two separate guys. They couldn't turn the small guy into Thor. They had him side by side.
Right. Yes, exactly. Let's see. I'll send you to hell, you ugly troll. I remember the little guy was. I'd seen him in other things. Let's see. Oh, I'm not seeing the name here.
Yeah, he looks like a comedy actor. Like maybe he was like a stand-up back then.
Oh, I don't see Donald Blake.
I don't know. I feel like
here's Thor. Oh, Eric Kramer. Wait, Eric Kramer. Wait, Eric Kramer. Isn't that a friend of Paul's? Hold on. Paul has a big friend named Eric Kramer. I swear that was like.
Is it the same guy?
Hold on. There's no way. God, what did Paul? God damn it! Get off that goddamn volcano. Hold on a second. Is there a chance that we know? No, wait. But he has a friend who was like a big stunt guy who was in a bunch of things. It couldn't be him. What?
No, you would have found out by now.
Right, and
you would have seen him
loved. Okay, I think Paul knows someone else named Eric Kramer, and yet someone else who's a big stuntman and things. And I'm bad with names, so I confuse people. But I don't see the name of the little guy that played him. But I have to find out about that. Eric. Oh no, Steve Levitt. Okay, I don't know who that is either. Tim Thomerson is in that movie. I know him. Tim Thomerson's just going to show up, He's just going to. Charles Napier's in it. Charles Napier's just going to show up,
Yes, space hippies and everything.
So the year is okay. So let me also go back to how we met, Fred. This is for the movie nerds that watch this sort of thing. I think they'll recognize this sort of way of figuring out, who a good friend is through what their interests are. I saw Batman Forever at the cinema. It was released in 95 and again in 2019 for the 4K release. Very nice. Eric Kramer is Thor. Let's see. And Cam says, welcome, Fred.
Oh, thank you.
Yes. So, okay. So first of all, now I live in rarefied air right now. I am friends with people like Lon Harris and the Schmodown, and I just happen to meet a lot of people that are really on the level with talking about movies. But if you go back to when we first went to college, 92, 93, it was unusual to like movies as much as we did. And we found some friends that did, but to one degree or another. But I knew we were going to be friends when I went to your dorm room. Not only were there Batman posters, but I looked at your record collection a cassette collection, and it was nothing but soundtracks. And I was like, nobody listens to nothing but soundtracks except me that I know of. So I was like, oh my God. And you're like, hey, and I borrowed Glory and went home and listened to Glory. And I was like, okay, we're going to be good friends, you know? So that was how it began. And of course, we both got really obsessed with 89 Batman, which was a huge moment in cinema. That was anticipated for a year. If you were a comic book fan already, like you and I were, that was a big deal. And we saw that movie. How many times do you think you saw that in the theater, you know? Over and over. For me.
Dozens, easily.
Yeah, it's a bunch. And then that one came out on videotape earlier than everything. Like, it used to be videotapes were $100, but this was one of the $20 ones. You could buy it 6 months after theater release or something. So like we were really obsessed with Batman. And then I don't think we saw Batman Returns together, but we were living together when Batman Forever came out. And a friend of ours, Stephanie Beaupan from the Tower Players improv troupe, her father... What's that?
Yes.
Yeah. Was a marketer for releases locally. So, in fact, we got a lot of free T-shirts. I had a True Lies T-shirt. Mom posted a photo of me in a shirt and a hat she gave me. So I'm wearing a Hudson Hawk shirt and a White Men Can't Jump shirt. Yeah. I'm like, yeah, she gave me a big trash bag full of stuff, and I just started wearing movie T-shirts for the whole year. Yeah. But they got us.
I mean, Mr. Beaupain was so nice. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, they got us in.
Huh? Yeah.
Yeah.
What a good guy. And then, they got us into an early screening. Here, the two biggest Batman fans. We drove all the way to Hamilton, I believe, Hamilton, Ohio. In your car. Which, by the way, a funny story I always tell of when you finally brought a car that semester. You hadn't had a car the whole time, but you had a car that summer because I think you were working somewhere out like College Corner Pike was like a server farm. Did I have that right? They had a server farm in 95 or something, or 95?
Yes. Yeah.
Which is so funny. So you had a car for the first time, and this is the first time I realized that your dad also was a GM worker. Because, do you know how I realized this? What was the evidence?
Well, it was a Chevy Lumina. I remember that much. A four-door black Chevy Lumina. We swore up and down would be the Batmobile. But I think there was like something in the car itself, or I don't know. I remember you and my dad really hitting it off.
Oh, yeah. We had a good time, your dad and I. But the thing that made me realize your dad was a GM worker, because I hadn't found that out, which my dad was as well, was you backed your car into the space. And I said, why are you backing the car in space? And you go, my dad always has. And I go, does your dad work for GM? And he go, yeah, because my dad always backed the car in everywhere so they could get the hell out of there when it was 5 o'clock.
Yes.
I always thought that was pretty funny. But man, so we went to a sneak preview of Batman Forever, and excited about Batman movies. You just don't get much more excited than you and I were. And I'll tell you what, man, we were on top of the world. We just adored that movie, and we have watched it a billion times. In fact, apropos of nothing, you were just texting me quotes from it, weren't you? Oh no, it was Star Trek. But we've done it before, where we go back and forth with Batman Forever quotes. Chair.
Yeah.
You just get a text from Fred that says that chair.
The bat phone is not a beeper, or the bat signal is not a beeper.
The bat signal is not a beeper.
When she lures him to the top of the building, wearing because she's going to seduce him, so she gets up to the top. My favorite character in that like the throwaway character in Batman Forever is Commissioner Gordon. Remember, like all he does really is he just shows up and goes, "Is everything okay?" Or he's like constantly shaking hands with the cop next to him all the time, like, "Oh yay!"
He gets increasingly doddering in this one too. He gets so doddering in this one too. Well, Batman, what were we doing again?
No, that was so cool though. We saw it 2 weeks before it opened, and I remember then we went to the opening night at the Princess in Oxford.
Oh yeah.
So there was this huge line out front. Yes, this huge line out front. And our friends were with us. I think Stephanie was with us. I think Leah and a few other people were there. And we're standing in line. And this is like the first time I've ever been like I've seen this before any of you have. I have the
that felt very insider.
I was just like, yes, it was a different world. I'd never been in that before. I mean, she got us into a couple of movies like that. I remember. like Shawshank Redemption. We saw Shawshank Redemption like a long time before it came out in the theater.
Oh, you might have seen that without me.
I just remember like at one point, like you may not have been there. It might have just been her and me one time.
That's cool.
But that was but it was so weird to have that hookup. Like the guy that got the movies, like that was his job.
Yeah,
this is so cool. So cool.
And we had so many like not standees, but like hanging things. I remember they were just all over the apartment. We had like a Batman Forever poster, and then like a Robin poster, and then like the little thing that hung around that had like Robin and Batman and Two-Face on it, and Jim Carrey.
Yes. Yeah.
That was such a big deal too.
Yeah. I mean, and like the stand, like that standee you're talking. Is that the kind that like had like it was like a mobile almost? So like the head, like the and the Batman symbol that had the question mark framing it, and then it would kind of turn around, and it was just the bat symbol. So it was like, ooh.
Yeah, I mean, the full-on Batman Forever and Batman Forever shirts. I feel like we had those too.
Yeah, we had a couple of those.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, but it was the big movie that summer.
Yeah.
It was the biggest one.
Yeah, and a huge deal for us too.
Yeah, for sure. I was actually thinking of a story that I don't know if you remembered or not, but you and I think Leah and I think Maria, then Poland, but now Diamond, went to California to visit Lee Caius.
We did,
and you guys went out there.
I'm so happy you just said Lee Caius.
I was like, I want to use the right one. So
I tried Lee for so long, and I just went back to Bart and didn't even think of it. And now I'm like, oh, I wonder if he's upset that I just kind of fell back on Bart. Anyway, he changed his name a couple times.
But you mentioned earlier our soundtrack obsession. Like you were the only other person I knew that was in the soundtracks.
It's so rare.
And so, what was the name of that music store in Oxford? Was it the one that was to the video store or part of the video?
Yeah, next to the late night video, the cool video store.
Yes. Okay.
Not the lame video store that I worked at the other end of the street with the Christian owners.
That's the one where you got all the standees, though, right? That's where we got Darth Vader and Han Solo and Boba Fett. Okay. Anyway.
Right, because I finally had access to the catalog of those, and I'm like, who wants them?
You started ordering them, and then like nobody was like Star Wars wasn't even out again, and there were all these standees, and I was like, "Could I have Darth Vader?" And you're like, "Yeah, sure, we'll take care of it."
Yeah, no problem.
So Looney T-Birds would let you order music. Like you could go up and say, "Hey, can I place a special?" I put in a special order for the soundtrack, the score, to Batman Forever from Elliot Goldenthal or Gudenthal.
Right, Elliot Goldenthal.
Right,
composer of Demolition Man and not much else. Cobb and not much else.
Cobb. So I get this on deep CD. I go home and I'm obsessed with it. I dub it onto a cassette tape because the Lumina didn't have a CD player. It had a cassette player, right? I go to pick you all up at the Dayton airport, and the moment you get in the car, the first thing I do is I cram it in and I crank it up to the opening score. I only had like three of the tracks on it. And at that point, I'm not even really paying attention that Maria, Leah, whoever else is in the car with us. We were just like, so we're jonesing up. We're like, this is so great. I think we had to go over to Kentucky to the other airport to get Maria to her car or something like that. And so we're doing this.
She parked at one airport. We got dropped off at another one.
Right. So anyway, so we get over there, and the whole point of it is we get over there, and most people that know her know that Maria is about the coolest person you'll ever meet. She's so nice.
Good peeps.
Like good people. And that's the only time in my life I've ever seen her annoyed at me. Because she had only heard the opening music to Batman Forever at least 15 times on the way from Dayton to Covington, Kentucky.
I get it.
Just kind of like get out of the car. I was like, all right, see you later. And she's just kind of like nodding her head a little bit and like just slams the door.
I feel like that's totally
it over again.
I had such blinders on for how other people felt about things at that time too. I was like so self-obsessed or whatever. I'm like, this is great. And then, I'm like never thinking like maybe they don't want to hear it, like I've gotten much better at that.
I mean, my assumption was just that they're with us. So of course they would like it.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. And then not factoring in like, well, got up early that morning. We had to travel to the airport, 4-hour flight. Everybody's just like slogged and pissed. Yeah.
Yeah. And here's Fred. Crank it up.
Pretty good
music
score,
made it through the. Yeah, I only made it through 2 movies, but still, it makes you think of Val Kilmer when you hear that opening. I don't know, it's like that. Like that's the only time that movie actually has like darkness to it is in the opening.
It is,
and then after that, it turns into the full Joel Schumacher film.
Well, that's what was interesting about watching it this time. First of all, I will say that I think people not being able to watch Batman Forever in a theater does that movie a disservice, because in a theater with the full 5.1 stereo surround and that's rocking through, and when that and I mean even down to the things like at the very opening, like when he goes, "I'll get drive-through," like that's just like a goofy joke or whatever on video, but in the theater we've had this big music score, da 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 da. Here's the car. I'll get drive-through. That's a really funny line after all of that build-up, and then the punchline is then the fire comes out of the back of the car, and it's like that's really good. That's actually really well directed and well done, and I think a lot of the movie is, and it very slowly earns its goofiness. You know, I really like the pace of that movie. It's a real rock star kind of movie. It does a lot of really good stuff. And the other thing I realized while watching it is, look, this is Jim Carrey did Dumb and Dumber, Ace Ventura, The Mask, all in 1 year. The next year, he did this. So it's like, if you're going to cast him as the Riddler, which is a great idea, and you're going to live in the shadow of Frank Gorshin, you can't Tim Burton up the Riddler to begin with, first of all. You could Tim Burton up the Joker. No. But you can't Tim Burton up the Riddler. Although I guess technically the Batman kind of Tim Burton's up the Riddler. But anyway, the point is, you cast Jim Carrey, everyone's going to rise to that level, And why would you put your foot on Jim Carrey's throat to stop him from being Jim Carrey so that you get a more serious movie? I mean, the movie is what it is, but in a glorious way, I think.
Yeah. No, there's so many little things that I was watching it again the other day just because I knew we were going to talk about it, and you had mentioned, I was like, I gotta pull it out here. There are so many little things that I forgot about it. Like you were talking about the Batmobile in the first sequence. It's flying through the cave. He's just sitting. You get a little reaction shot of Batman sitting there driving it. He hits a button, a hologram in front of the cave that's hiding it. It goes, boom, and he flies through it. I'm like, of course. Yeah. You've never seen that before. Because the TV show was like The Rock would go up and down, right?
Sure.
But you never saw that in the Burton movies. And then other things like the car, like the fact that the wheel, like I think they actually said they got it up to like 160 miles an hour, but then O'Donnell wrecked it. He actually wrecked the Batmobile.
Oh, he actually did.
Like in the behind the scenes, they said he was going to throw it in the drive, and he actually like backed it up into something, and they actually had to stop filming for a day. So I mean, so many little things about it that are cool, but it makes it a really good superhero movie. Really good.
Well, and that's the other thing is, in context, what was the last superhero movie to even come out in 95? A year before? 2 years before? I mean, you just didn't get them that often, and they just were never as good as Batman Forever was. That was a good superhero movie. For all its goofiness, which I feel like is a reputation it got later. It did not at the time. Nobody coming out of the theater in 95 was like, well, that was a little too goofy. Like, I don't think so. I think that was more slowly people developed that opinion of like, well, compared to Tim Burton... but Tim Burton's basically an adaptation of the Adam West TV show in some ways. Now, when I look at it, it wasn't at the time, but now when I look at it, I go, well, that's got a lot of Adam West going on too,
I wonder how much of that is because of Batman and Robin that came after it, which definitely goes way overboard at times. Like I'm trying to think of like, what is a serious moment in Batman and Robin, whereas in Batman Forever, there's that whole sequence, even at the end, right? It's like the classic villain dilemma where he's got, Chase or whatever her name is in the one cage, Robin in the other, classic one. You have to pick which one do you want. And then, there's the dramatic save. And then he comes back up, he gives his speech and he says, I couldn't save just one of them. I had to save both of them because I'm Batman and Bruce Wayne. And, and even now I think back and I'm like, that's a cool line. Right? Because you're talking about his duality through this whole thing.
Right.
So,
well, and there's the symbol of the coin. Both sides of the coin. One is marred.
Right.
It doesn't nail that symbology the way The Dark Knight does. But it's Christopher Nolan didn't direct this movie, but Joel Schumacher did, and he's a pretty good director. It's still the director of Lost Boys, Flatliners, The Client. It's still a good director. It doesn't hit that symbolism, but it's there. At least it has it. At least it tries, and it's the writer of Cinderella Man. It's an Academy Award winning writer. Akiva Goldsman wrote this. So I mean, you can Jim Carrey's probably not going to deliver Akiva Goldsman's dialogue the way it's going to be directed in a Ron Howard directed movie or whatever. But it's still like all the stuff's there of like, I'm both Batman and I love how at the end they get down to a classic TV show ending of like, what's Batman going to do? He's got Robin over here. He's got Chase Meridian over here. Is he Bruce Wayne? Is he Batman? And then, and then you could see, tune in next week to find out, like, how does Batman get out of this? I will say that, I mean, obviously Tim Burton's not going for the Batman TV show, but like, it still exists. Like, I love that Joel Schumacher goes for the canted angles. They look really good. The canted angles at the opening look really, really good. That might be the last time he does it, actually. He might just do it at the beginning for all the bank robbery stuff,
Yeah, right. No, I mean, it's...
And what a grand pursuit you must be. Oh, my God. Jim Carrey just kills it in this movie. Kills it.
When he's trying to mimic him so much in the big dance sequence that he puts on his glasses and he kind of pulls his on and takes them off.
And those get huge laughs in the theater because it's all really well done. Jim Carrey's performance is really good. Schumacher's directing it very well. Val Kilmer's killing it. Watching this movie after Maverick, the audience does not find this movie to be stupid in any degree when he's on screen. They audience took Val Kilmer so seriously as Batman. I mean, obviously he's not always serious. He's coy and fun and smiling and too many questions and all that sort of stuff. But I was like, the audience, number one, applauded Val Kilmer. But number two, every time Val Kilmer was on screen, no matter what he said, that maybe when you're watching at home, you go, oh, that's not, the most dramatic delivery of whatever. But he never got any, like, he got all credit for his performance by the crowd now in the wake of Maverick, also. So, kind of cool.
he's really good as Bruce Wayne. That was like always the.
Shut up and how's my goal?
But I mean, a lot of people. I remember, I forget where I heard this. It was probably talking with a group of people, but they were always saying like, Michael Keaton was really good as Batman, but Val Kilmer was really good as Bruce Wayne. And I mean, to me, it was like, I get that because there's like even that scene when they're at the circus and he looks up after his parents have been Robin's parents have been killed, and I mean. It's got enough stakes, right? I mean, everyone's like, well, it's goofy and silly. I'm like, the kid's parents have been killed, and his brother too. So it's
that's so well done too. That shot of them and I gotta tell you, I'm glad you just mentioned that because that shot looking down on them. Well, the whole sequence where they're climbing up, you're also looking down. It looks like an eyeball. There's a red center and then a yellow, and it looks like an evil eye. And then when Robin swings in, it cuts up, and it looks like a blue eye. And so it's just like, it's almost like the villainy going on down there. I'm like, there's a lot going on here that it doesn't get credit for, that it's trying and doesn't get credit for, Yeah.
No, it's one of my favorites. Yeah.
And talk about a Tim Burton move. It's the only Batman movie with a circus in it. Like, it's like, granted, they aren't all grotesque and stuff, but I'm like, that's a Tim Burton move. This really does feel like a Tim Burton movie. Yes. Tim Burton who makes goofy movies,
Yeah. I was thinking about the, like that whole sequence, it's got like fantastic sets, costumes, those big muscle dudes with the gold skin and they're pounding on the drums and all that stuff going on. And And then that's the whole sequence lasts like, what, 5 minutes? Mm-hmm. Tops? Maybe 6 minutes tops. It's like they don't make them like that.
Well, that's
just to like get that huge effect.
What's interesting that you say that because that's one of the most amazing things I consider on these new Marvel movies is, Lon was saying that the modern production techniques, shooting the volume and stuff like that, they could take you different place, and move on. But yeah, Batman Forever, it's like, we're here, we're doing this, we're here. It's the best looking, Wayne Manor in any of the movies. And then Robin's there and it's motorcycles and now he's stealing it's like the movie really moves. I don't think it gets enough credit for being a good movie. It's a good movie. It really, it does what it needs to do. And, I think the relationship between him and Chase Meridian, it's, what a great name, but it's naive, but insightful. I've read your book. insightful, naive, but insightful. That stuff all works so well. Like his back and forth between her, the fact that she's like way gaga for him is really funny.
Yeah.
Like it's an over the top performance for her, but not if you stand her next to Jim Carrey or Harvey, Tommy Lee Jones. So yeah, I don't know. She's a pretty nice thing to have in that too, because you're like, this is one of the greatest actresses of all time, right next to Val Kilmer. Yeah. So it's pretty good stuff.
There's the one scene, not to get too off of the topic, but there's the scene where that ridiculous scene where he hears her inside and it sounds like she's being attacked. So Val Kilmer's Bruce Wayne like pounds the door down and she's like, working out or something. And he's like, oh, I'm sorry. And he picks up the door and puts it back. But then they start talking. And at one point, like some random thing, probably something that was props that you were sending me links to, or you could buy her book. That's like on the shelf in that scene, like,
okay, right.
But he picks up the dream doll or whatever it is, and she explains to him what it is, and he looks at it for a second. She goes, "You look so sad. Why is that?" That actually gets me a little bit, and that only works because of her, I think, and him. I think that's because you like back in the day when they said like, oh, if you put real actors with superhero scripts, then suddenly it's real to you, right? Like let's get Robert Downey Jr. or let's get somebody like that. These two are real actors, and they did great.
Yeah.
They did really good.
Yeah, no, I think a lot of those scenes work more than they get credit for because again, you watch them on TV and it cuts to a Hardee's commercial and da 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 da. I'm sitting there. That scene comes in 45 minutes into a journey that I'm taking and I'm following and watching it. Yeah, it's amping up. Like Jim Carrey starts as kind of a serial killer and then he gets funnier and funnier and funnier. Harvey actually starts pretty serious too with that bank thing. That opening monologue that he gives there is really good. And he breaks it by turning his head and going crazy, but it's like the opening thing is just pure Tommy Lee Jones, good men are martyred, all this sort of stuff. It lulls you into like, no, this is going to be a serious Batman movie, and then it just gets a little funny, and then it backs off, backs off until it ends up really just crazy Batman TV show stuff, which I'm okay with. It's the last act by then,
Yeah, so, right. Him as the when they do the throw off of like how he became Two-Face, like that TV screenshot where the news reporter saying
GNN
he was once this right, and so like he's like in the courtroom and he's talking and the mobster goes to throw the acid on him and there's Batman jumping out of the jury box to try to save him.
Yes, I love that. I forgot about that. Yeah,
that so feels like well, how would Batman have tried to save him? Well, he would have been in the courtroom. We don't have that. Okay, come on. Let's go get it. Val, don't take off the costume. We need you for a minute.
We need you to jump out of the jury box. Hey, wait. The box is full of superheroes. The jury box. No, Batman's in the jury? Yeah. Yeah, but Two-Face, Riddler, it's way fun.
Such a great movie. I'm so jealous.
Yeah, I wish you'd have been there, dude.
Quite a lethal combination.
What's the lethal combination?
Yeah. Lethal and Two-Face could be a lethal combination. 2 against 2 are better odds.
2 against 2 are better. A friend taught me that.
I'm trying to do the quotes, but I'm completely not just a friend. A partner.
Yeah. Boom! Hit the cue. By sea or by air. Yeah. Why not both? Yeah.
Yeah.
And all that stuff is just pure. It's great comic book action, man. Going up to the one thing I thought of, so they go up to the mountain, and the amount of time, it's obviously there's no realism in the amount of time that it takes him to build this whole thing, but it's just I've always wanted to do a sketch where it's the guy that Edward Nygma is trying to explain what he wants, and he's like, yeah, and it's okay, so the whole thing's gonna have to rise out of the ocean, right? And I'm gonna need it to be like, I don't know, 500 feet, and then at the top will be a path to go all the way back down. And can I get question marks that are illuminated all the way up? Like a guy trying to figure this out is like, wait, you want what? And it's got to rise.
And he paid for it all by robbing banks with Two-Face.
That's right. Show me how to hit a guy.
Show me.
Ow! Big laughs. Big laughs in the theater with full crowd.
What about the? I guess this will be my last question. What about the scene where he's putting on the sonar suit at the end, where Kilmer's putting on the new bat suit, and go as Alfred sitting there, like helping him get ready. And then there's that infamous scene where he turns around and his butt is the butt shot.
Yeah.
How did that play over? How'd that play over with a crowd these days?
Big laugh, because that's just
really?
ridiculous. Yeah, big laugh. I mean, that's funny, bad, funny. That's funny, weird, and that gets the big laugh as the funny, weird.
I want to say that the 2 times that we saw it that summer, the first 2 times we saw it, because we saw it at the drive-through. I remember we saw that movie so many times that summer. I want to say that most people missed that part when we saw it. I think maybe because I think at one point I realized, I was like, wait a minute, why are they showing his rear end there? Because everything else about it is like, he's floating up, he's putting on the cowl and everything else, and then it's the cheesy shot, which then they played to like forever in the next one.
Right,
but
nipples and everything.
Yeah. The cod pieces and all that other nonsense.
I seem to remember the butt getting a laugh because it's one of the few times the movie actually pokes fun at itself. Most of the things that are funny are within the movie and don't leap out of it. That's one of the few times where the movie's like, wouldn't it be stupid if we cut to his butt after all these muscular shots and weapons and stuff? And so it's like, oh, okay, I get that joke. But yes, and you know what? That was a bit cheeky. I see what you did there. Well, Fred, it was nice walking down memory lane there. Well, you reminded me of a few things. I forgot we also had the drive-in. Of course, we went to the drive-in so much. We saw Waterworld. We saw so many things at the drive-in that summer.
We saw Waterworld. That was the summer of... there was so many bad, good movies that we saw. I was thinking about that a little bit earlier today. We saw Waterworld, Congo, The Phantom. Slam Evil. Outbreak. We saw Outbreak.
We did. With Robin
the Dustin. Yes. And it was just like, man, when you think back on it now,
was that summer as well? Or was that the previous year? Same mall we saw Outbreak at, but
yeah, I think it was
at the Forest Fair
Rob
Mall.
And I yeah, with the the lights like going across the ceiling going into the entry. I had never been there, and then I seemed like we were there like every weekend. It was just
right. It was like cheap movies.
Where we're gonna go.
I think like $5 movies or something, right? It was
really
cheap.
Gosh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And you could tell that's when people would wait. Even like back home in Brunswick, like you mentioned, Batman 1989. I went and paid extra money, the premium to see it at Palmertown Mall with my sister, and then had to wait 4 months for it to come to the $2 show in Brunswick. So it was like killing me to not go see it again, but I couldn't afford it. In 1989, when I didn't have a job, when I was like 14 or 15. So.
Oh man, 89 was my first summer in Oxford, Ohio. So I'd moved there to go to school. I commuted from 88 from Lewisburg. And but my first summer, I finally had friends. I was finally going uptown to like meet friends and stuff. And so boy, at Batman 89, it was like, life just revolved around that Batman 89. I'll tell you that. But what a fun thing from 89 excited. High school all the way to 95, where I'm about to. That's the summer before I moved to Chicago, I believe, right? Yeah, 95.
Yeah.
Because we were living together because I owed 1 credit hour to Miami University.
Yeah.
So talk about a slacker year.
Now remind me, correct me if I'm wrong, but you got that credit hour by writing a screenplay, and wasn't it? It was a superhero screenplay.
It was a superhero screenplay.
The characters, Nick Noble,
named after an teacher?
Economics professor.
Professor.
And it was like the superheroes that all had like very useless powers, but altogether they managed to win. And it was just like all of the crazy characters that people would like come up with over the years.
Yes, I convinced my teacher that I convinced my whatever counselor that I would write and direct a short film for my senior project. And I ended up writing, and I ended up with a feature. And then I was like, well, I could shoot part of this as a short. And he goes, it's 1 credit hour. You got it. I was like, all right. Because he was like, I don't want to have to deal with you going and getting equipment now to shoot this thing that you've put together or whatever. But yeah, I had a plan to shoot part of it there, but it's rooftops.
No, that was a lot of fun just because you were working on that all the time. You were working at the video store. I was trying to finish up because I was 1 year behind you.
And we both worked at the comic book store.
Yes, and that was such a fun job. It's still one of my favorite jobs besides driving the forklift.
Yes.
Got paid in comics.
Yes, got paid in comics. And glad to.
Yes, yes. So many terrible comic books were floating around that apartment.
Oh God, stacks. Because we could get anything. Yeah.
Yeah, and like we just would like, okay, well, here's the 10 that we want, and we'll take 20 of those. And it's like, oh, what's this? And then it was like, sometimes you found some good stuff.
Oh, but, no, it's like $5 an hour in comics is what we got paid.
Yeah,
to work there.
To sit there and listen to people play Magic.
Yes, well, that was what was funny too. Is we were not gamers, although we did become gamers. In that we. And I'm sure somebody here has heard of this. This is why I like this crowd that watches the show and adjacent people. Is Marvel Overpower?
Overpower, yeah.
Overpower. Yeah. We couldn't get into Magic, but once they did Marvel, this is like D&D. Once they did Marvel Superheroes role-playing game, okay, I'm in.
Yeah. No, because it was so much fun because like literally you assembled a team of heroes or villains. Sometimes they were mixed in.
4-on-4.
My characters were and then you had all the abilities. So some of them were strength, some were energy, and some were intelligence. Right. And we played that non-stop for a whole year.
Yeah.
The whole year.
It was the best. I only had to fulfill 1 credit hour, work in a video store and a comic book store. Yeah, we played, here, see, I tell you, these people know it, right?
Yes. Yes.
Overpower. Yes, okay, and I think everyone else here will enjoy this story too. So imagine Fred and I, I'll have to find a photo of us. We have a really good photo of us on the porch. I remember one night we were hanging out.
Oh God, yeah. I
think we have cigars or something, and we're like,
something like that.
Fun, because when we moved out, we moved all the furniture to the porch, and then we threw it all over the edge. We're like, we down the stairs.
So this is Adam's way of thinking, because Adam's a very smart person. So we move the couch out first, and then we move out the coffee table, and we start to feel we were on the second floor, and we start to feel the balcony start to kind of like sink a little bit.
So Adam goes, out there.
Fred, do you have your grappling hook, right?
Because the grappling hook, another reason I was friends with him.
So he gets the grappling hook, hooks it onto the porch, walks back inside the apartment, ties it up to one of the, like, I guess, columns or support or something.
Yeah, like
ties it taut. And then that thing was just like... And we kept it there for like the rest of the year.
Yeah, just in case that we had overweighed the porch, that we could grab onto the grappling hook and swing to safety because we had watched way too much Batman Forever.
So yeah, no, I mean, like, everything went over the side of the porch. The Christmas tree was up year round. Your mom, wonderful mom, would just bring us food all the time. That was the best time I ever had in college.
That was a great time.
That was a fantastic time.
Just stacks of comics and movies, and it was
toys.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that was a true fun slacker time. Yeah, that was a good time. And I'll tell everybody here because I think anybody else would appreciate this too. Fred and I, of course, love movie soundtracks, so we would play the big soundtrack that had just come out that we were very obsessed with was Crimson Tide. By at that time a composer I did not know very well, but I was getting to know because of that soundtrack, Hans Zimmer. And we would put on the Crimson Tide soundtrack, and we would deal our Marvel Overpower cards, and then eventually that first 14-minute track or something that builds to this gigantic crescendo, and we would sing our own lyrics to it, which was brass balls, brass balls, they are balls,
and they are made of brass
balls, because that is such a brass ball soundtrack. It's so.
And we got that from Matt Stegman, who I think saw the movie with us. We walked out of there, and he's like, that movie was just about guys with huge nuts, gigantic brass balls.
Huge nuts, the movie. Oh my God, thank you for making a Matt Stegman reference there. Yeah, that was just nothing but guys with gigantic nuts, the movie.
Pouring sweat, smoking cigarettes. Yeah, no. Yeah, we didn't smoke, but it was that was such a good
cigar
time.
Every once in a while.
Such a good time.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Well, hey, thank you for the walk down memory lane. Working a movie store was the best ever. So sad they're all gone now. Yeah, I know. Working in a small town store. So we had a porn room. No fancy Hollywood video for me. Yeah, indeed. Are you talking about Hans Zimmer from Video Killed the Radio Star? Was he in that band that did that? Is that Hans Zimmer? No way. Report back. Report back, Smythe. But gosh, I forgot all the details too. Yeah, working a comic book store, working a video store, only one credit hour to turn in, and nothing else to do. Boy, that was some good slack.
Was the Clerks come out before that or after that? Because I feel like we predated Clerks. Maybe we didn't.
Yeah.
Maybe we came out afterwards. You're the first one who showed me Clerks. But,
I got that.
Yeah, it was around that time. But I think
that was a screener that I got while working at the video store. So, I mean, Clerks must have come out in 94, I think, but we wouldn't have seen it yet then.
So 1 year before.
But I got that in the video store as a screener. That and Pulp Fiction had, do not copy or whatever in the, he was in the video. He's the guy in the background playing the drum and keyboard in Video Killed the Radio Star is Hans Zimmer. All right.
Wow.
Dude, we have all learned something. I can now finish this show and feel like I've done something good. Thank you for that, Smythe. Well, Fred, always good to see you. And we've talked about being able to come on for this, but I think this is the perfect thing to come on for. Talk about some Batman Forever. And now in my head, I'm back there in 95, living in Candlewood Apartments. Yeah. In fact, I just got incense from a store down the street. I saw they had wildberry incense. I had to go buy some. So it smells like Oxford Valley right in here right now. So so thank you for the walk down memory lane. This has been very fun, and thank you for R.I.P. James Caan as well. Yes.
I when you guys were talking about the critic, I remember that scene. I remember seeing it with you, but I remember we were dying because the detail that they got in that scene was the animated Shatner. He says, in Celebrity Calls, first James Caan.
Yeah.
Then his lips starts to twitch. He starts to do the jaws. I'm like, who got that? Oh, that was perfect.
That's the thing. Yeah, I'm glad Lon referenced that too. I go, that's a perfect segue because we were watching that, and that's the sort of references we were into, and literally nobody ever made a reference that deep or that obscure as he says now.
The chin, the quiver, the rage.
I see your point.
Caan, you bloodsucker.
Caan, you bloodsucker.
Like a poor marksman, you keep missing the target.
Each ship has a code to prevent another ship from doing what we're doing, forcing the Reliant to lower their shields. Raise them!
Where's the override?
Where's the override?
Where's the override?
I can't! It's a kid from I think the kid that goes, I can't, was the kid from Witch Mountain, I believe.
It seems like he was like in a lot of the New Generation or the Next Generation TV show. Like they pull him out like every 6th episode as like alien diplomat.
Oh, really? That kid?
He would get killed. The same guy. Like, wow. Yeah, it was like so weird. I'm like, hey, it's the guy that was Kaan's follower.
I can't.
Oh, well. I can't.
I can't.
When he dies, it's the saddest death scene. Gets crushed, and Caan goes to grab him and says, I shall avenge you. And when he pulls him in, because he's got the open-eyed stare, you can see his face go like...
Now, I got to see that in the theater. When's the last time you saw Star Trek 2 in a theater?
Thanks for having me. I mean, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. When's the last time you saw Star Trek 2 in a theater?
I know. You saw that double feature of that.
I did.
With The Thing, I think you said? Yeah.
What was it? Was it The Thing?
I had it in my Facebook picture forever. I had it as my Facebook thing for a while. I think you even said it to me. You're like, this was your night to see movies here.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, wow.
Oh, yeah. Quite the Fred Mowery night.
Next time I'm out there, I don't care what's playing. I want to go. I want to go there because this looks amazing.
Yeah, it's such a good time. Yeah. But the last thing I'll say is watching again once in real time with a full crowd and all that sort of stuff. Same thing with Star Trek 2. That Ricardo Montalban performance when he does the "Why are you here?" and then he's like a real long slow thing. He goes, "Why?" and just the crowd just like, "Oh right." I mean, it's like it's so good, so good.
It's true.
All right, Fred Mowery, good to see you. Thank you for stopping by, Minnesota Mowery. reference to the another reason I was friends with Fred is he made a short film where he was Indiana Jones called Minnesota Mowery back in the day.
Which apparently still exists in my parents' house, but I'll see if I can find it.
I have a VCR right here that I'm going to get repaired, and I can dub anybody's VHS. So I don't want stuff like that to disappear because that's a sort of there's only one tape with Minnesota Mowery on it.
Just one.
Yeah, just one. But anyway, good to see you, Fred. And
to see you.
We'll keep talking soon. And the next time I think of you, we'll have you back on here. So thanks for being able to come on today.
All right, thank you. Talk to you later.
Lagabiru to you, Fred.
Disney.
Well, once again, I've done too much show. Thank you all for watching and joining in with the conversation. I that was cool that you guys have a lot of the same connectors. You're working in video stores. This is why we're all friends here. And a Kieran Lagabiru to you, Shelby. Oh, let's find a Shelby drop here real quick before I go. There we go.
And a Kieran Lagerbeer to you.
Thank you, Shelby. And thank you all for watching once again. And I hope you enjoyed it. That was a good, fun conversation. And I love that it stayed on the topic of superheroes because there's just nothing else I'd rather talk about. And Thor is a masterpiece. Don't believe anything that anybody else tells you. Don't take any guff from those swine. And we'll see you next week, and Paul Preston will be back then, and we'll be able to talk about, I think I'm supposed to talk about Lightyear today. I'll wait for him to talk about Lightyear. And we'll probably talk more about Thor as well. But I'm glad to find out that, the people that are complaining on the internet, according to Lon, in a year, they'll have forgotten it, and they'll go, it's actually pretty good. Because there's always that Disney Plus thing. The new thing comes out, and it says, would you like to watch Thor and Love and Thunder now that you've finished watching this other thing? And then you go watch Thor and Love and Thunder again, and you go, oh, that's a pretty good movie. It's obviously going to dawn on people that this is a really good movie. It is very hard to make a movie as good as this one, I think, and very hard to make a movie as funny as this one. People try all the time. They do not succeed. And also, if your complaint is too funny, then you're just looking for, could it be more obvious that you're just looking for, you're looking for trouble. That's what you're looking for. Oh my gosh, we've done a 2-hour show. Well, hey, everybody, thanks for stopping by. We'll see you next week with Paul Preston and more movies and all the trailers that I didn't get to. Can you imagine if I got to trailers? This would be like a 3-hour show if I got to trailers. So sorry, no trailers, but go see Kung Paw or whatever it is if that works. We just get in trouble for showing those trailers anyway. But no, I am happy. I know I didn't get to it, but I just want to say I'm very happy for all the people that are very tired of Marvel movies that they now have Where the Crawdads Sing. Where the Crawdads Sing, I expect to make $120 million this weekend because everybody complaining that all the movies are superhero movies. Where the Crawdads Sing. Where the Crawdads Sing, folks. So we'll report back next week when Where the Crawdads Sing obviously will have won the weekend because everybody's tired of these Marvel movies.
Texas rode off to fight a war. 1,000 miles to Richmond was where they headed for.
But Burnett was their leader, the captain of this crew. The Indians made him orphan at the age of 2. Willie Bill was born in Pecos, 18 summers he has seen. He's old enough to soldier, but will he see 19?